long time ago, Mr. Robert and I went sheep hunting, and also goat hunting up near Tustumena Glacier. We had been hiking, the winds were blowing like 80 miles an hour, and it would push us over. We finally had to put down our packs and then walk along, and I had a goat tag. When I saw a goat way far away, must have been 300 yards. So I took aim and I was having to breathe out and hold really still, and then I started counting the wind gusts and trying to figure out when they would stop. Finally I took my shot and I got my goat. The winds were blowing so hard we had to come back the next day and get the goat because it was across a ravine and we would have had to go a different way. And we needed to get back to the tents by night. So I got the goat, and Grandma worked very carefully on it so that a head could be mounted to honor the goat. I felt really bad after I'd killed it. I just felt really sad. I wasn't going to let it be for nothing, so I kept the goat to remind me of that time. And after I'd taken care of the skin and turned it all inside out and salted it down, and it was going to be okay, Mr. Robert was out hunting. His brother was along with us, and they went hunting. Well, I was looking up in the mountains, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to climb up there and see if I can see some sheep. And so I started hiking up. It was a long way up, and there was a lot of loose rocks. And in my head, it was almost like, I don't know if it was Holy Spirit or my angels coaching me, but you could hear a voice inside. Where to walk was safe, that the grass was slick and would throw you, and the loose rocks were like rotten bones of the earth, and I felt guided up to the top. So I made it safely up. That took a couple hours. It was a pretty steep face and very treacherous, so you had to go kind of slow to make sure that you didn't twist an ankle or anything. I did have my gun with me, and I have a lot of pictures. I think some of you kids have seen them. Well, I got up there. The sun was setting. Mr. Robert and his brother had gotten back to camp, and I needed to let them know where I was. So I stood at the top of the mountain, and I fired my rifle into the air so they could see where I was, and I waved that I was okay. And I had this really big green hunting fishing type coat on, and in the pockets I had gummy bears. And that was the food that I had with me. I thought, well, it's dark. I better not go back down. So I better find a place to kind of lay down, and I'll tuck myself inside my giant coat because I could kind of pull my knees up in and be warm. The moon was full, and it was overhead, and I could see sheep in the distance, so I wanted to be very still. So I was watching them, and they walked single file, and it was just beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And then I turned, and all of a sudden this owl started flying at me, and it'd swoop down really close to me, and it'd go past, and then it would turn around and it'd swoop out down at me again, and I started hitting at it with my rifle so that it wouldn't hit my head. And I was thinking, what is going on? What did I do? The owl landed about 15 feet from me, and it was going, trying to figure out who I was or what I was. And I was talking to it, and I said, what is your problem? Leave me alone. And then I thought, oh, you know what? It's a burrowing owl. I bet I'm near its burrow. So I saw some rocks that was kind of a rock wall. So I moved against it, put my back against it, so I only had to face the owl from one direction. But it left me alone. That was okay. So I got past the owl, and I tucked myself in, and it was getting cold. I ate a few gummy bears just to keep my mouth nice and moist and get a few calories in me. I did have water with me, so I drank some water. Later on that night, I looked up, and on the top ridge, under a full moon, these sheep walked by single file. It was absolutely beautiful. To this day, I can see it in my mind. It was so pretty. And then I went on to sleep, and I was so glad when sunrise came. And when sunrise came, I got up and I looked down, and there were sheep, and they were down drinking. So I knew that if I stood up, I might scare them, and I wanted to get some pictures. I wasn't going to shoot them, I just wanted some pictures. And so I knew that maybe if I acted like a sheep, they might not be so afraid of me. So I crawled on my hands and knees. I had my rifle across my back, so I probably looked like a really strange animal. But I was able to get a little closer, and then I'd put my head down, act like I was eating, and I would look up at them, and I'd crawl a little further, and I got some really nice pictures. of the sheep, and that's how Grandma got those pictures. Well, I decided I'd go down because I was hungry, and I went on down the mountain, and I got down to Mr. Robert, and he said, oh, he was worried about me, and he had thought about, coming up to get me. I told him, yeah, I was okay. He said, there's wolverines up here. I thought, oh, great. I'm sure glad the wolverines didn't find me because they are fiercer than bears. That was just an amazing trip. We looked off. One time we saw a black bear, and it was, maybe a mile away. We were at a lake, and you could see it on the side of the mountain, and it was just walking on its all fours. And all of a sudden it stood up on 2 feet, and it threw its head up to the wind, and it was sniffing, and it turned and ran. Bears have really keen sense of smell, and they really don't want to be around people at all. That was kind of cool getting to see that from a distance.